Welcome to the channel. This is Oblivion. In today's video, we're going to be ranking all 24 Choose Your Legend heroes from S+ down to E. But today's tier list is going to be a bit special because there will be two tier lists. One by me and one by my special guest, Tacho.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's your boy here, and we got a tier list for you.
It's going to be a spicy one, I think. I think some people are going to have some interesting takes on this one. So let's just go ahead and jump in. The way this will work is we're going to go from Choose Your Legends 1 to Choose Your Legends 6, but we'll be saving Choose Your Legends 4 for last just because it's the newest one, right? Because of the refines. And I think that's going to be a lot of the more interesting conversations. So let's start with the runner-ups of Choose Your Legends 1, and let's start with Brave Lucina. So I have Brave Lucina in A tier, and Tacho, where do you have Brave Lucina?
I have her in D. So,
okay.
Very stark contrast between both of our opinions on her. So, why do you have her in A?
I think Brave Lucina is just still amazing. I use her like on almost every team where I need like a bunch of stats. So, like, I think the biggest down thing for like Brave Lucina is that the breath skills came out as seals, right? So that kind of like lowered her value.
Right. Yeah.
But then she gives so many stats. Like, she can give like plus 10 or 11. I think it's 11. To one stat and then 3 to all the other stats. So I kind of just use her as like a stat steroid, especially on Vantage teams. Like with Altina, I can just like give Altina like 11 attack, which is really massive. And it also gives that breath effect, which means that I can use Altina's seal slot for even more stats. So that's kind of just how I use her.
All right. Now, my issue with her is that her support has just been power crept like crazy, right? So instead of running her for the breath, I'd rather just run like Duo Hilda, who gives the attack up 6 and the breath as well. And then she also does other things too, because she's a flying staff unit. So you can have her fight. She has dazzling staff. She can also do like odd and even recovery. She can give you flyer support like guidance and ground orders and things like that. So for me, I guess it's more so the fact that I think other units do Lucina's role better, as opposed to Lucina just having fallen off a cliff completely. So that's where I think I stand on her. She does have one clutch application, though. I think you can give her Canto control, so she can give you like breath support and also lock down enemy Canto.
That's true. That's true. What I wanted to give her was the infantry tactics or whatever from Brave Chrom or from Ascended Celica. I thought that would be really good. So I usually use her with like Altina, which wouldn't affect her obviously, but like also use her with like all the Ikes, and like allowing Ike to not have to run NFU himself would be like massive. That's like a big buff he could get essentially. But yeah, I think she has a place for sure. Like, she definitely isn't the like broken support she was when she came out with the refine, right? Like, originally when she came out with that support refine, it was just absurdly strong. It has kind of like waned over time, but I do think she's still solid.
There's also Thor units that have World Breaker.
Right.
That one's dual phase, and then the Thor units are cracked as crazy hell.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, Thor is bonkers good.
Yeah. So that's just my reasoning for having her in D. Other units just do her thing better. That's all I think.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, so let's talk about the other runner-up, Brave Roy. And I'm a massive Brave Roy fan, but I put him in D tier, so I feel kind of bad. Where did you put Roy at?
Rightfully so. His artwork is really good, right?
Oh my gosh, top tier. I love it.
Yeah, I remember when he came out and seeing him with the giant Durandal that's like bigger than he is.
Oh yeah.
That was so rad to me.
Oh, but yeah, I feel like he is a bit, when you compare him to other sword cavalry units, he does come up kind of short. And it does suck that Eliwood did kind of steal his thunder.
Yeah, if Eliwood didn't get the same refine as Roy, I think we would have been seeing Roy way more often than we ended up seeing him. Because really what sells him is that Blazing Durandal refine. It's so strong on cavalry units to just be able to have that.
Yeah, it's still strong nowadays. Like, it's still special fighter and an impact effect. Like, those are two very good skills.
Yeah, exactly. And then you couple that with cavalry mobility melee, so you can Gale Force real easy. He has a really good chance to survive the enemy's round of combat because he has the impact effect, and then he's gaining all that bulk and speed. So it just works out really well.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love one day for him to get a preference like skill, because I think that would just like push him back into the meta, and he could actually be a solid cav.
They need to do that. They need to do that so bad. Just go back to the old runner-ups and give them all like new B skills or C skills or whatever.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Speaking of which, let's talk about the female winner, Brave Lynn, because I feel like her preference skill on release was like completely meta breaking, right? But nowadays it's kind of fallen off a bit. So
right.
So I have her down in D tier as well. But where do you have Brave Lynn?
I have her in B tier.
Okay.
And that's not necessarily to say she's like 2 tiers above where you have her, because I think she could very much still be in D tier. But the thing about her is that she's still a ranged cavalry unit, and being a bow type gives her a little bit of an advantage, because you can give her fire sweep bow, and then I don't even think running her refined weapon with her B skill is the best way to play her anymore.
Yeah,
I don't think it ever was, actually. I think her best build has always been fire sweep bow with double poison strike and savage blow, just to like do a whole bunch of free damage that the enemies can't really react to.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like when I used Brave Lynn on my Ether Raids defense when Ether Raids first came out, that's the build I used, and it just completely destroyed teams. Like they just couldn't handle it.
Yeah, that was prior to Null Sea Disrupt existing too. So like you just ran Brave Lynn with a bunch of dancers, and there's really no answer to Fire Sweep Bow with Poison Strike like that. So she could just tear through everything without even trying.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the biggest thing that made me knock Lynn down this far, because I think I would have had her higher before, was kind of like Ascendant Fjorm showing up, because before, like, the meta is a save ball, right? But Lynn could actually like be problematic against that because of Fire Sweep Bow. But now Fjorm's there, and even though she's not like ultra popular, it's still like there's a counter to exist, which is a bit annoying.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the men's winner of CYL1. We got Brave Ike, and me and you are both massive Ike fans, obviously. You know, that's your icon, and that was my icon for a very long time. So I have Brave Ike in A tier. Where do you have Brave Ike?
I have him in B tier.
Okay, I think that's fair, yeah.
Yeah, not too much of a separation between us, but he could totally still put it in. It just depends on what you're up against, really. I used him in the first round of Chaos Season, and he was taking no prisoners. It's just absolute annihilation, because the meta had strayed so far away from where it was when he had gotten countered. Like, where people were running Duo Lith and, like, Nullify damage reduction and things like that. So, with the shift in the meta where people are just preferring to run things like Brave Eirika and, like, the Scion, Leaf, and Seliph unit for Chaos Season, I felt like Ike was just a really good choice against what people were running at the time.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. That's why I've still been using Brave Ike, because, like you said, the counter to Brave Ike came out, right, with Duo Lift, and, like, Hardy Bearing, too, right? That was everywhere to stop Brave Ike.
Yeah.
But now that's completely fallen off. Like, you don't see that barely at all. So I can use Brave Ike all the time. And the cool thing is about Brave Ike is he's actually different than, like, let's say Brave Edelgard or, like, the other units where, like, they only get damage reduction. Like, a lot of the units will only get damage reduction against the first attack. But the way Brave's Ike actually works is if you get hit by a Brave hit, the second Brave hit actually gets reduced by 80% as well. So it's actually different than the other units. So it makes him really good against all this Brave spam coming out. Like, you know, Duo Corin and, like, Summer Micaiah and Winter Lysithea and stuff like that. Because he can just eat it up like it's nothing. Yeah,
there's a very good reason why he was damn near the best tank in the game for years.
Right, absolutely.
And they had to specifically release counters for him at that point.
No, yeah, 100%. I think he's still a great unit. Okay, let's move on to CYL2. So CYL2, we have, for the female losers, we have, who is it? It's Camilla, right? No, it's Veronica.
No, Veronica.
Right. So we have Brave Veronica. So I have Brave Veronica at B. Where do you have Brave Veronica?
I have her in C.
Okay, I think that's fair, to be honest. I was kind of like on the fence, like between B and C, because she still is, somehow she's still one of the best healer calves we have, which is kind of insane. But I also think it's just because they don't release healer calves very often.
Pretty much. Yeah, we don't really get many. The baby Larachel was the last one that was really relevant.
Yeah, absolutely.
But other than that, we had, like, the rest have all just been refines. So, like, Elise's Refine, I think, is still pretty good. And that's about it as far as staff calves go with Refines. I don't think they really do this type of unit too often.
No, yeah, unfortunately. And I do agree, like, she's kind of fallen off just because, like, of Ascendant Fjorm and, like, null C users and stuff. So yeah. I think she could be C for sure. I think I put her in B mostly because I think, like, between her and Baby Lau are still, like, pretty much the two best healers on calves in the game. And so there is some value there, especially if, like, Odd Recovery becomes meta again. I could see her, like, rising back up. Yeah, I think if they ever release an offensive healer special, that could help a lot too. Just because, like, not having access to a special is such a downside nowadays.
I'm still waiting for that, like, aggressive healer to be released. Like, give him, like, effective damage against the type. Give him brave attacking. Ooh. Give him a special that does bonus damage.
Right. I'm hoping for Legendary Lincia. That's where my hopes are. I'm hoping it comes out.
Yeah, we'll see.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll definitely see. Okay, so the CYL2 run-up for males is going to be Brave Ephraim, right? Okay, so I have Brave Ephraim down in C tier. Where do you have him?
I have him in B tier.
Okay. I think he's a good unit, but, like, for me, the problem with him is that there are so many good green axe armors out right now. And, like, he just doesn't stand out amongst them, especially when we just got Brave Edelgard Refine. And when you look at the differences between those two, it's like night and day. Like, it's crazy how much more she gets.
She literally does everything he does and then some.
Right, exactly.
So it's like, there's no point to really use Ephraim, unfortunately.
Yeah, I wish that, like, he does have that access to where he can't get his double denied, which is cool, but he's not really that fast. So I wish they kind of would have made him into, like, a fast, like, aggressive green armor, and that way he could have more of a niche. But they didn't really do that. They didn't give him enough speed.
Nah. He's mostly just, like, offense and defenses.
Yeah, that's pretty unfortunate. Okay, so let's talk about the female winner for CYL2, Brave Celica. And I have her in B tier. Where do you have her?
I also have her in B tier.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much where she's at. Like, she's really cool and unique still, though. Like, we still don't have very many units who have that Brave effect, where it doesn't have, like, reduced might on the weapon, right? And so she can do those really cool quads, and then she can also, like, get the cooldown after. So she's, like, really good at gale forcing. But then if you want to, like, also just make her into an offensive unit, she's pretty cool at that too. So I feel like she has that unique niche that, like, not many other sword units have, which is saying a lot because there's so many of them in the game.
Right. Yeah, so, I mean, I have her in B. I actually almost had her in A for a second.
Okay.
But the thing is, her quadding and her ease of activating Gale Force, I think, is really solid. She's one of the best actual, like, just pure Gale Forcing units out there, because you can't really Pulse Smoke stop her. She can Gale Force in Resonant Battles, which is pretty cheeky if you can get away with it.
Right.
But, see, the thing about her is she's not very flexible, I feel, because her B skill being Double Lion is what really hurts her, because there's a lot of other B skills she would really like to have, like maybe Close Call or Spurn, or, I don't know, Tempo now is an option, so Null Follow-Up as well, that would be pretty interesting.
Right.
So there's a lot of skills you could possibly be running on her, but you have to make the choice between that or Double Lion, and the main selling point to her in the first place is that she can quad with that 16 might weapon. So if you're taking that away from her, I feel like there's no longer enough of a separation with her from all the other sword infantries that would justify her. Yeah, so, like, for me, she's just stuck doing that one thing, and I don't feel like she's solid enough anymore to really, like, give her enough of a push to be an A tier.
Right. I think the thing that she really needs, actually, is if they put, like, a damage reduction piercing special for melee swords, right? Because she gets that special acceleration, so she can, like, special accelerate into it and, like, maybe hit it twice in a combat. I think that could, like, really, like, skyrocket her up in usability. But as it is right now, like, Vital Astra is good, but, like, the damage reduction doesn't really help her at all. We have the winner of Choose Your Legends 2 for the male side. I think this is, like, you know, obvious. We have Brave Hector, and I have him in S+ tier.
Yeah, me too. It goes without saying. This guy, when they were giving out refines, they must have owed this dude money or something. I don't know what happened. Because, I mean, we had the Brave Ike situation, right? And Brave Ike was so good, but they released a whole bunch of counters to Brave Ike, so he's not, like, quite as crazy as he was. But then with Hector, I feel like, I almost want to say I feel like they've been trying their damnedest to get him out of being the best, like, not the best anymore, but, like, one of the best far save, near save, armored options, and they can't. Like, there's nothing they can do to stop him. The biggest one for me, I think, was when they released the legendary male Byleth. He seemed like an excessively obvious counter to Brave Hector, and it didn't even work, because later on we got Hardy Fighter, and Hector just came back into existence. So he's like a roach. They can't kill him. He just keeps coming back.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Like, you could tell how much they wanted Hector out of the meta by just how many green units we got that year. Like, the fact that all of Hero Rises was green units and they're all trying to be counter Hectors, like, that just shows you how powerful Hector was in the meta and how much they wanted to get rid of him. But then he just finds a way, like between Hardy Fighter and Deflect Magic becoming meta, like, he just finds a way to not die. And the fact that it's been 2 years since his refine and he's still one of the best save units in the entire game, like, just speaks volumes.
And I mean, they couldn't beat him, so, like, you know the saying, if you can't beat him, join him. So they just released Ascendity Dune, who's Hector with more stats.
Yeah, they're like, we gotta make some money off this, so let's just make a dragon version.
Yeah.
But yeah, so easy S plus for Hector, no surprise there at all. So we're going to Choose Your Legends 3, and the Choose Your Legends 3 second runner-up for females is gonna be Brave Camilla. And I have her in B. What about you?
I also have her in B.
Okay. Yeah, so for me, like, she is still extremely unique. And like we were saying earlier, like, they just don't release that many, like, healers, especially on cav or flying, right? And I think Camilla still does, like, a really cool job of being able to, like, she does a good amount of damage, which is nice, but she also just, like, afflicts gravity, which is, like, super annoying to deal with. And she also offers that support with, like, the debuffs. So, like, like, with all those things combined, it makes her actually a very solid unit. And I think the biggest thing holding her back is that she can't, she has to use, like, Wrathful or Dazzling in her B slot. I can't remember which one it is. So she can't use, like, Trace, which would make her super toxic. And then she also doesn't have an offensive special. So, like, those two things, like, really hold her back from being, like, a top tier unit for me.
I mean, that's where we are right now with these staff units. They kind of want to have Wrathful and Dazzling built into the weapon now, so they can run the B skill.
I think, like, the only thing she's really missing is Kanto. Like, and the funny thing is, we just got Tana, actually, and Tana can give her Kanto. I don't know how well that works, so don't try it. Like, don't summon for her, because I'm saying that. But I do think it's interesting that now she kind of can get access to it. I would like to see someone try to do, like, a hit-and-run team with that and see if they can get it to work.
Yeah, a lot of units actually benefit from the Kanto from that Tana.
Right.
There's one that I'd like to talk about when we get to it, but we're coming up, so we'll talk about that then.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's talk about the male runner-up, which is Eliwood. Okay, so we have Eliwood. I have him in A tier. Where do you have him?
I have him in S tier.
Okay, so I just finished my plus 10 Brave Eliwood with the forma that just came out. And this unit is really good. Like, don't get me wrong, this unit's, like, insanely good, especially with the amount of dragons and beasts we've been getting that are so strong. The fact that he is effective against them, and then he also can run, like, wind sweep, and he can also, like, just have damage reduction, which is really nice. He gets plus 10 to all stats in his weapon. Like, he is so much better than when he was on release, because on release he was pretty underwhelming, but now, like, he's a very solid Lance Cav, which is saying a lot because there's a lot of good Lance Cavs in the game right now.
To me, the top three, it should go without saying. It's him, Brave Chrom, and Brave Eirika. Those are the top three Lance Cavs at the moment. And I feel like all three of them are doing enough unique things where there's a bit of separation. So, like, it's not really to say one is better than the other, but I feel like there's different scenarios where you may prefer to have one over the other.
I'm glad they did that too. I'm glad that, like, they're not so similar that they can just, like, you know, one's just better than the other. Like, depending on what you need, Eliwood can be better than Eirika or Chrom, which is really cool. I think, especially with, like, the dragons too. Like, there are so many annoying dragons right now, and they keep releasing more dragon skills, like with the distant counter, and now Dragon's Wrath 4, which is really better than I thought it was. Okay, let's move on to the winner for the female side, Brave Micaiah. So I have her down in B. Where do you have her at?
I have her in A.
Okay. So she's a pretty interesting unit because I do think she can hit extremely hard, and she does have the armor effectiveness, of course, because, you know, she's Micaiah. And the guaranteed follow-up attack was, like, one of the big things she really needed, so she can hit really, really hard. I think the biggest thing kind of holding her back is that her B slot, her preference B slot, is, like, pretty terrible in my opinion. You can't just get rid of
her
it.
Her B skill is awful. Yeah, just don't run it.
Right. Yeah, probably just better off like a Trace or something else.
My thought with her was to run speed preempt, and then like, because she's one of those like kind of middle of the pack speed units where you can actually benefit from giving her speed, I feel. But it's a tall order, though, asking her to, like, get the vantage on all these really fast ranged cav units now. So, like, Winter Lysithea, for example, or, like, Ascended Lake Jarn. I don't think she's ever going to be able to beat them on a speed check, sadly.
Right.
But she has that effective against cav. So, theoretically, if she could get the vantage off on them, she's going to one-shot them. And she could end up being a really scary threat, I think.
That would be really interesting. Yeah, you're right. Like, because most of the meta right now is like the threatening units are cabs, right? And the defensive units are armors. And she is effective against both that. So she can take out the annoying save units, and then she can vantage all the annoying like threats that are going to run at you. That's a pretty cool idea.
So I have her in A. I could easily have her in B as well, because there are still a lot of weaknesses to her. But in a perfect situation, I think she could definitely get some good performance in.
Yeah, I agree. I think she's like right in the middle, right between B and A. She's like a very solid unit, and in the right situation, she's like ridiculously powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the male winner. We got Brave Alm, and for me, Brave Alm is an S. What about you?
I have him in A.
Okay. So for me, if you don't know, I'm a big Brave Alm simp. I have a +10. He's maxed out. He has every skill he could possibly want. So my opinion, is a little bit biased because I'm running him at max power essentially.
That's the complete opposite of me, who has him unmerged with like neutral IVs, right? So.
Right. I do think Brave Alm, like, he is very powerful. The thing is, like, we have gotten more powerful cav swords that kind of fulfill the same role as him, like Legendary Nana, like Brave Seliph now. The cool thing I like about Alm over Nana is that he's just super tanky, right? Like, he actually has a really high defense stat, and his resistance stat actually is deceptively bulky at like max investment, which makes him like kind of difficult to take down.
Right. Now, that's my main issue. Well, I have two issues with him, actually.
Okay.
The first is, of course, not an issue for you because you got him at +10.
Right.
But for me, he's just a little bit slower than I'd like him to be.
It's true. Yep.
And having him unmerged without like plus speed IVs or anything like that, he's definitely not going to be able to win the speed check against a lot of these units now. Mm-hmm. So either I'm not activating his wind sweep or I'm not able to double with him. And if you're not doing either of those things, he's really just a dead weight on the team.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I think the thing is like we are in that speed meta right now, and his A skill is really good because it gives a lot of true damage, but it doesn't give speed. So like if they could ever remix it and give it just attack and speed solo on it, like I think that would like definitely help him a ton.
That would be absurd because Sense Scale is still like one of the highest damaging A skills.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But for me also, another thing with him is that his bonus movement is granted on his weapon, so it's an effect, it's a status, and you can shut that down with Stall Ploy. And there's a certain other sword 3 mobility unit on this list we're going to talk about that I think his existence is probably enough to just warrant Stall Ploy being on damn near every team now. So, like, I think the threat of He Who Must Not Be Named is so great that it's also going to affect Alm in the lower tiers because he's kind of doing the same thing with the +1 bonus movement on his weapon. So, like, locking Alm down to 1 mobility where he's not able to cheat and have cavalry movement anymore, I think that's really going to hurt him.
I agree. I think, like, before the introduction of Duo Thor, I think it was a fair trade, because usually you're going to be running, like, someone like Reeve to get that effect, right? Like, because it's pretty hard to actually hit stall play on somebody, but with Reeve, it's pretty easy. And, like, having to run Reeve to stop Brave Alm, I feel like is a fair trade. But now that Duo Thor is out, it's like, okay, well, Duo Thor just does everything, so it's not really a downside to have to run her.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I can have Stall Ploy, I can have Exposure, I can have an AoE unit, I can have World Breaker, I can have a Flyer with a duo skill. It's it's like, how many effects do you want out of her? Right?
Yeah, but oh my gosh.
Here's one other thing that I was thinking of. If you have the brand new Flame Tana, you can give him Canto 1 and combine that with Close Call.
Exactly.
So it's like, he kind of has Canto 2 now, almost, that you can't stop with Canto Control. So that is one thing in his favor for sure.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that too. And I was like, anytime I can give Brave Alm new toys, I always want to do it. So it's definitely something on my mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move. We're going to skip CYL4 because that's the big one. We're going to go to CYL5. So let's go to the women's runner-up. We got Brave Eirika, and I have her in S tier. What about you?
Yeah, I have her in S as well.
I mean, there's not much to say here. Brave Eirika is just a ridiculous unit, even still, right? She just puts out a ton of true damage. She has the anti-guard, which is nice. She also has that damage reduction, which is really good, so it makes it really hard to like one-shot her on the retaliation. The only thing I would say that would keep me from putting her in S+ is that we are just getting so many quick units, and a lot of times she can struggle if she doesn't get the double. But other than that, like, this is a phenomenal Lance unit.
Yeah, a lot of people were crying about her when she came out because she was just like super overtuned, right? But see, the thing is with her, she's really good. On the player phase, she might be better than the other two contemporaries with Brave Chrom and Eliwood.
Right.
Because I feel like her B skill, giving her Canto 2 and then also the like defense cut effect and all those things, it's really strong. Like when she's player phasing, I feel like she could be argued as the best of the Lance Cavs. But on the enemy phase, she's not quite as good as Chrom and Eliwood are going to be, because Eliwood just straight up has dodge.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have the like damage reduction when initiating like she does. So there is like a bit of side grading between the three, I think, where you could choose one over the other in any given situation.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing about true damage based off defense, right, is that it scales extremely well as units get more powerful. So I always like that more than like the true damage based off your own attack, because as you get older, right, your attack won't be as relevant as like the enemy's defense will be. Okay, so then we have the runner up for the male side, which is Brave Marth. And I have Brave Marth in B. Where do you have him?
I have him in A.
Okay, so for me, people have called me a Brave Marth hater, but I just don't really like his kit. I feel like they kind of just took like effects that were like good and like kind of like slapped it all together, right? Like they gave, okay, here's Advantage, here's some no follow-up, here's some buffs and stuff. I also don't like that he has to have an ally within 2 spaces to get a lot of his weapon effects. And I feel like that can be like a big downside in game modes like outside of Ether Raids. And so for me, like, I don't know, like he can be a very powerful and amazing unit for sure, but because he is in the sword like class, right, and there's so much competition there, like I just don't really enjoy him compared to other sword units.
Right. So for me, he seems like he's intended to be the epitome of god swords, right? So like when I say god sword, I mean really fast damage reduction based on speed sword unit infantry. Maybe give him like a 2-hit special. Maybe give him like all these other effects like healing. He's got recovery. He's trying to be like an omni tank, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But I don't really feel like that's where infantry sword units need to be in the current meta. Like there's just other things they could be doing that are just better. That
meta has definitely fallen off quite a bit. I mean, it might come back with some kind of new effect, but like with the speed-based damage reduction god swords, like that meta has passed, and I feel like he kind of like came out like when it was already like kind of like dead. So I just didn't.
I wasn't on the way out. When
exactly. Yeah, I just wasn't that impressed with it.
Yeah, me neither. I remember when my reaction to CYL5 was like, oh my god, Brave Eirika is so cracked. Like, how are they going to top her? And then I saw Gatekeeper, and I was like, the artwork was so good for Gatekeeper, and like his kit and all that stuff. I was like, man, I also misinterpreted the way his thing worked, where I thought if you had like 6 Gatekeepers on the team, they were all doing like attack and res -6 to the enemies. So.
Oh, right. Yeah, I remember thinking that too for a second. I was like, that's really good.
Yeah. I was like, dude, so you just run max Gatekeeper. That's the new meta.
Right. Okay, let's talk about Gatekeeper because we're already talking about him. So for me, I have Gatekeeper in C. Where do you have Gatekeeper?
I have him in B.
Okay, so for me, like Gatekeeper is like the Brave Lucina for you, right? Where like he is a good support and he can offer like unique stuff. Well, kind of unique stuff, I guess, nowadays. But I feel like it's just like comparing him to other supports, like I don't ever want to give up that team slot for him. I'd rather run a different support, right? Like Elamine or Flane or something like that.
Right. Yeah, this has been his main problem ever since he came out, is that he's offering all this really good support. And I would really love to just have him on the team because blocking jump effects is so good. And having the super obstruct effect, I guess we can call that bulwark now, is really good. But he's got one big issue, and it's that he himself is not a good fighter.
Right.
He doesn't fight very well. So, like, would you really want to give up that team slot just for a sole support unit, or would you rather, like, instead of running Gatekeeper, you could run Medius, who has cancel control. He can, like, be a really solid fighting option if you need him to be, or you could run, like, Legendary Myrrh, who's a solid fighter, and she has Warp Bubble. So, like, I just feel like with him, there's other options that just do enough similar things to him and can also get into a fight and survive, as opposed to, like, just being all in on the support thing.
I feel like they needed to give him a guaranteed follow-up attack. Like, I don't understand why they didn't do that. That would have helped so many situations for him. But yeah, when it comes to, like, just a pure support unit, which, you know, there are a lot of, like, he just doesn't, like, match up to someone like Elamine, right? Like, Elamine is just so completely broken that I would always run her over, like, him almost every single time. And when it comes to, like, the anti-warp effects, right? Like, there is Bryocatria, but then Elamine just turns that off, so you don't have to worry about that. And then when it comes to SD, I'd rather have a unit who can actually, like, carry their own weight. So, like, Legendary Myrrh, right? Where she can actually get into combat. She kills things, and she can take hits, which is really nice. Okay, so let's talk about the winner of the female side. We got Brave Marianne, and I have her in A. What about you?
I also have her in A.
Okay, so I'm a giant Brave Marianne fan. I use her all the time. She's very powerful. She's a great unit, especially on Gale Force teams. My biggest problem with her is that, like, she doesn't fit on a lot of types of teams, right? Like, she's not a generally powerful unit. She's a specialized unit. So when you're using her for that specialized role, she's phenomenal. But when you just want to, like, to use her, like, on a basic team or, like, an SD or something, right? She just doesn't do as much. So I think that's why she's a very good unit, but she's just not, like, the best unit, right? So that's why I have her in A.
Yeah, so for me with her, it's like, when you look at her kit, she has the 70% DR on initiation, and then... But it's when you use her in tandem with other units, like Bride Catria, for example. Give her that Brave attack. That's when she really gets over the top. So she's colorless, and then with the 70% DR on initiation, it's really hard to just get rid of her. And then she's got null follow-up as well. She's got a lot of speed, too, so slower, tanky units are really going to struggle to get rid of her. You can just run in with her, attack. If you got Catria on the team, she can jump in with the guidance effect. She can attack, she can get the quad off, and then she can use her dance skill to, like, give another unit another action, which is super powerful, man. Like, I don't know if you've ever fought her in summoner duels or used her in summoner duels, but, like, just getting another action with a unit off of a unit that's attacking and isn't dying, I think that's like, that could be a huge momentum shift.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing too, right, is, like, when you go to Ether Raids, a lot of times you have those units who can give another action, like Duopini and stuff, but the Duo's Hindrance can just be a problem sometimes. And Brave Marianne just gets around that completely, which is really nice, because she can, like, nuke something that has lower resistance, but has, like, maybe high defense, and you're, like, being annoyed by it. And then she also just dances something, so it's, like, she's just a really lethal combination.
She's also doing a lot of... She's also very unique, too. There's not really another unit that does, like, dancing off of a special like that.
Right, exactly. I'm looking forward to seeing her refined next year, too, because I feel like there's a lot of things they could give her. Like, they put Wings of Mercy in her weapon. That would be extremely powerful. Or just, like... There's a lot of things they could do, but I'm really excited to see what she gets.
Yeah, same here.
Okay, so now we are going to move into CYL6, our newest Choose Your Legends units, technically. And we're going to go with the runner-up here, which is female Byleth. So I have her in S. Where do you have her?
I also have her in S.
Okay, yeah, this unit is so much fun. Like, I want to say she's one I've been having the most fun with, but then there's another one who I've been having a lot of fun with too.
Yeah.
But she
10 guesses who that is, right?
Right, exactly. She just does so much more than I imagined when I first saw her. And what I really like about her is just how flexible she is. Because not only can she do that Vantage role they made for her, but she can also just be an extremely powerful player phase mage, which is, like, really cool, because that special is actually well designed, where, like, you not only do you get that nice boost of damage, but you also get the true damage on the second hit, and it stacks if you get the special off again. So, like, that stack on top of it just makes it, like, her hit so much harder than you'd imagine.
Yeah, she's disgusting on both ends of the floor. Like, she can attack you. She's really powerful on the player phase with all the damage reduction she's getting after initiating.
Right.
And then with the null follow-up combo, she's going to hit you twice. And, I mean, good luck surviving her double Divine Pulse unless you've got some crazy, like, deflect magic unit or like Far Saver with Hardy Fighter or whatever it is.
Right.
And then on the enemy phase, she can still like destroy you with the preempt and having Vantage. The Hardy Bear, like, there's not a lot of units that really run Hardy Bearing anymore.
Right.
So, like, her on the enemy phase with the Vantage, she could easily just clean sweep a full range team if you need her to. I've been running her in Aether Raid's offense, actually, and, like, a lot of Catria balls are setting up with units like Baby Innies, and then they have, like, all the other usual suspects, like, range units that you would run with her. Like, also, who's another good example? Ascended Joshua as well. He's another, like, Catria ball unit. You just throw this Byleth right in front of him, give her a bunch of speed. It's very important that she's fast, because she has to have more speed to activate preempt, but as long as she's got the speed, she's going to counterattack instantly, and she's probably just going to kill them in one shot with Divine Pulse.
She has all the things you need to. Like, the damage reduction not being pierceable by Deadeye is so massive, too. Because, like, if somehow she doesn't kill them, they just hit her, and it's, like, nothing. Like, it just bounces off of her.
Yeah, she's incredibly tanky. On both phases, too. It's like, there's not really an easy way to just get rid of her if you're getting hit by Divine Pulse.
Right, exactly. Okay, let's talk about one of the biggest units we've been talking around him this entire time. The number 2 winner for males, Seliph. I have him at S+. Where do you have him at?
I have him in S+.
Right, this unit is busted. This unit is absolutely ridiculously busted. Like, the things he can do are just disgusting and degenerate. This week in Summoner Duels, he is just dominating so much. Even with Duo Thor, like, he still gets around it, and he just threatens the entire map. You can't kill a dude, and he kills, like, everything. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, this unit's stupid.
I'm pretty sold on him just straight up being the best unit in the game right now. I don't think any unit is better than him.
I think he's up there, right? Like, I think, like, there's, like, essentially, like, maybe 3 units that are the best units in the game, because they have different roles. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't just say clearly one's the best, but, like, him,
right. So
Duo Chrom,
who are those other?
And probably Duo Thor, maybe. Like, those 3 are probably, like...
Okay.
Probably, like, the
that's
top
fair,
3.
yeah.
Yeah. Because, like, they all do different things, right? Like, Duo Chrom is, you know, offering that massive support and damage, and then Duo Thor is also doing damage and support, and then Seliph is just, like, God mode, nuke, everything. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there is no surviving him. If he attacks you... I mean, I did that meme video, right? You all saw it, how supported that Ascended Dune was. He just cut through her like butter.
There's one unit I've got to survive him, and we'll talk about that in a second. But he's a monster. Like, he's so difficult to deal with, and on Aether Raid's defense, like, he just comes out, and you're just like, okay, what do I possibly do against this? He's covering the entire map. And in Summoner Duels, he does the exact same thing. The biggest thing for me is the Miracle, right? That Miracle is so disgustingly powerful.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, there's already only like maybe 1 or 2 units that can survive him, and guess what? Even if you survive, you're still in big trouble, because now here comes all the Wings of Mercy shenanigans, right? So it's like, it just never ends with him. He just does everything.
The really cool thing, too, is like, he has an open B slot, and I don't think people talk about that enough, because like, the B slot is like one of the most pivotal slots in the game, right? It's where you get a lot of the most powerful effects that you need to make a unit work. And the fact that he just doesn't need his technically lets you run whatever you want. If you can, like, that's the thing too, like, if you use him with Duo Chrom and give him that one special acceleration, it makes him even more busted, because then he just hits with the Moonbow or whatever special you want, Rupture the Sky on the second hit.
Right.
And, like, nothing lives. Everything just explodes.
If you're going to run him, I think getting him special ramp or, like, some way to nullify guard is definitely the way to go, or just, like, get his special ready instantly, because there's not much. If he pops a Luna off, there's nothing that's going to live that. So, like, when running him, that's all you got to keep in mind. But otherwise, he does everything else. He really just needs absolutely no help.
And the last thing I will say, though, is, like, with Duo Thor, right? Like, we thought that was his counter, and to an extent she can be, but the fact that he's fast means that her debuff doesn't target him. So you can actually just be smart and position him in a better way where he won't get hit.
Right. So there's not really an answer to him.
Yeah.
Like, not really like a straight up shutdown to him.
Exactly.
I guess I should say.
Yeah, there's no, like, direct counter.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to the winner of the female side. We have Brave Tiki. And I have Brave Tiki in A. What about you?
I also have her in A.
Okay. Yeah, so for me, like, Brave Tiki she's a good unit, and she has, like, some unique stuff, which, like, you know, is cool. But, like, she's just not where the meta is right now. The meta right now is like, when it comes to tanks, is like armors, right? And the fact that she's not armor and that she's infantry just kind of like holds her back, in my opinion. Because if she was an armor, I think she would be like top tier easily.
For me, like, there's a couple of clutch things about her, I think. First of all, her effective against dragon is really good.
Yes.
Because, I mean, dragons have been making a comeback.
Absolutely.
So, like, you have a unit with effective against dragons. That's really going to help. And then also she gets the... What should we even call this effect? The one that Duo Ike also has, where you just get special ramping at the start of combat, and then she takes it a step further, where she can nullify 1 point of the enemy's special at the start of their combat. So pre-charge specials like pre-charge Deadeye, anything with a pre-charge special is just not going to be able to get her. So if she has that, and then she also has guard, it's like a really nasty combo where they just can't use specials against her at all.
Exactly. Yeah, that effect is really good. Like, even on Duo or on Tiki, it's like so good because guard has become such a prominent effect in the meta. Or like even like anti-guard has become a prominent effect. So Tiki having both of those, like, just a way to get around both those effects, really powerful. It's like it's super solid. And I think like on an armor, like that would be one of the best effects you could have the entire game.
Oh man, if she had been an armored unit, this would be a whole different conversation.
Absolutely,
right?
But absolutely.
They had to make her green. Like, that's the one.
Yeah,
That's,
I agree.
Like all the other, like Midius being colorless, that I think is kind of the game breaker with him versus her. Whereas like her, she's weak to who I just said I think is the best unit in the game.
Right, exactly.
Right? So, like,
exactly.
As a tank unit, that kind of like renders your arguments null and void. You know?
Exactly. Right. She's just not in a good meta spot at the moment, which like sucks because she just got released, obviously. But like, we got Seliph running around and Legendary Nana, and it's like, okay, that's two annoying threats to deal with.
Yeah, had she been blue, that would have been something.
Blue or colorless would have been amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the winner of the CYL6. For males, we got Chrom. And this unit, I got him an S. He's very solid.
Yeah, I have him an S as well. For me, with him, like, there's definitely a lot of instances where he can just be better than Eirika and Eliwood. But I feel like with him, it's kind of a toss-up. It's like, really, it just depends on how many status bonuses you can get on him. Because he's going to need at least like 2 or 3 to really put in work. And if you get him in combat and he's not getting those like bonuses off of his reposition effect, he's not really going to have the performance that you'd like him to. So like for me, I guess it's not really that hard to get if you're running him with Asker, which I'm sure most people would do. But like if you're not, for some reason, maybe he's not in 2 spaces of Asker, so he's not gaining the support, or like he could be a little bit like, how do I say this?
He's like a little clunky to use sometimes.
Yeah. He's like, he has some inconsistencies.
Right. Exactly, yeah. I completely agree. Like, he's a very good unit, and when he's at his best, he's phenomenal. Like, he's one of the best units in the game. But getting him to that point where he's at his best can be difficult sometimes, just because, like, of positioning, or just, like, trying to make sure that he not only gets the buffs, but he can also, like, use his preference to reposition right to actually get those effects. The fact that he doesn't have no follow-up built into his weapon, and he has to get that from somebody else, can also be kind of problematic sometimes, because, like, you just need him to engage immediately, and he can't do that always.
Right. Yeah, because, like, there's a lot of situations where you just want to attack, and you can't just attack with him, because he has to at least get the null follow-up from somewhere. Like, having to reposition with him first to do that is really just, like, kind of a momentum changer. You want to always be on the attack. You don't want to have to waste time, like, setting him up, basically.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's, like, best when you... like in a Summer Duels match, like when you're using him in the opening and like you're like offensively using his reposition, right? To like offensively push a unit forward. I think that's when he's at his best, but like that's just not always the situation. Okay, I think that we are going to move on to our CYL4 units with their new refines we just got. I've been playing with them a lot, and Tacho, you were talking to me about them too. So let's start off with Brave Lysithea, the female runner-up. I have her in A tier. What about you?
I have her in S.
Okay. So for me, I just got done doing her showcase and stuff, and she's very powerful, right? Like, her ability to just, like, hit a Luna on that second hit, or even, like, a Dragon Fang if you're running Time Pulse, and just blow something up is really good. Like, she can just put out a ton of damage. My biggest problem with her, and the reason why I don't have her in S, is because the meta is working against her right now. Like, the meta is just full of Brave Hector and Ascended Thune, and they're all running, like, Deflect Magic and Hardy Fighter. And so it just makes it really hard for her to, like, succeed in the meta at the moment.
Right, exactly. Like, things are just not in her favor necessarily.
Right.
But that could change on a dime. Like, I don't feel like we're going to constantly just be in this same meta where it's like, okay, blue far save with deflect magic is always going to be the thing. They gave her -1 special trigger, and they gave her like the ramp effect when she attacks. That, I think those were two things she desperately needed, and they gave them to her. So when she gets her instant double attack, she has desperation basically as long as she's not on full health, which she's going to be now because she just takes one chip at the start of the fight.
Right.
So they gave her all of that stuff. So it's not too difficult for her to just hit the enemies twice in a row and then clap them with a special on the second attack and most likely just get rid of them, assuming it's not like Brave Hector or Ascended Dune or whoever the Far Saver might end up being. What put her in S for me is the chip damage thing, just being able to use it like Windsor Bernie, where you can set up like the reciprocal aid and all that. I feel like that's an effect that we don't really see very often. It's only her and Bernadetta that have it. So being able to use that and use it to your advantage to set up degenerate combos is enough for me to like just have her in S, because she can still fight. It's not like you're just using her to set up.
Right.
She's absolutely a better fighter than Bernadetta will be.
Right, that's true.
So, like, I think she can definitely find her uses.
I think the best thing is that she has the potential to be a better unit, which a lot of units don't get, right? A lot of units are just like, they come out and that's as good as they're going to be, and then they get worse.
Right.
But I feel like once they release Flare, which I think they're going to, right? Which is like essentially the magic version of Deadeye. Once that comes out, I think she skyrockets up in potential, because then she can just get through Deflect Magic like it's nothing. And because she can hit twice, she can hit Hardy Fighter, and then on the second hit, she'll get the special with Flare and just shred whatever she hits. So if I think that comes out, I think she like goes up to like S easy, S plus even, and she'll just be like a phenomenal nuke in the meta. And we're getting those tempo effects. So once they have the speed resistance version of tempo, she can put that in, and then it's guaranteed. There's nothing anyone can do about it.
Yeah, her B slot is very flexible.
Right, exactly.
You can run a bunch of different things on her.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's definitely in a position to get a lot better in the future.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Okay, so let's move on to our male runner-up. We have Claude. I have Brave Claude in A. What about you?
I have him in A also.
Okay. Yeah. So I put up my showcase of him. I've had a lot of fun with him, but I will say that Brave Claude has some big weaknesses that kind of hold him back in this current meta. And the biggest ones are like the prevalence of Brave effects are really, really big right now, and Viral Capture, right? So if he wants to be that tanking role, a lot of times he gets hit twice before he can counterattack, and his damage reduction only works against that first hit. So he just gets shredded before he can even heal. So that's like one of the biggest things I noticed. And then the second other thing is he didn't get IOT Shield. And the reason why I don't like that is because you pretty much have to run IOT Shield if he's in that tanking role, even if he's with a near save, right? Because he's going to be running into archers. Archers are everywhere in the meta right now, and that just makes him lose more stats. So I'm not the biggest fan of that. So that's kind of what keeps him in A for me. Like, he's a very, very good unit, don't get me wrong. He got a lot of stuff he needed, but like he just has a few too many weaknesses for me to put him up in that S tier.
Yeah, for me, I feel like, this might sound weird, but I feel like they almost missed the mark a little with his refine, where they're playing up his sustainability. That was definitely the coolest thing about him prior to the refine, was the 50% HP heal, but I don't really feel like they needed to waste time giving him a counter to Fatal Smoke, because Fatal Smoke is kind of niche as it is. You don't really see that all the time, right? So like, I mean, it is pretty prevalent, more so in Aether Raid's defense, but in like Summoner duels, you're not really going to see Fatal Smoke that much. So like, for me with him, I think they should have went more in with his player phasing or his tanking than like just go in with his sustain. So they gave him the 30% DR on the first hit. It would have been crazier if they gave him like straight up Fallen Star built into his weapon. I think had they given him that, like 80% DR when he initiates, and then also inflict gravity, that would have been more like up to par with what I think he needed.
Yeah, I agree. I think they could have like been way more generous with the DR. They could have just made it like a flat DR, like a 30% no matter what, not against the first hit, and that would have fixed a lot of problems. And I kind of do agree with like Fatal Smoke. I think people focus on it a little bit too much, and I think they could have like flexed and made him like better in other ways, like either like giving him some true damage, or like if they want to go really crazy, something I've been thinking about is they could have gave him flat speed based damage reduction, so like Astra or Brave Dimitri, but based off speed, and that would have made him cracked out. Like he would have been super strong.
That would have been absurd, because then that raises his damage. So he's getting like, I don't know, 10 points of damage reduction and 10 points of true damage. Yeah, that would have been something if they gave him that.
I think he's a very, very good unit. He's definitely usable now, which before I felt like he was just like falling off super hard. And now he's a great unit.
Yeah.
You just need to like kind of like give him the proper support to make sure that he can work.
Right.
Okay, let's talk about the female winner. We have Brave Edelgard. And I have Brave Edelgard in S. Where do you have Brave Edelgard?
I have her in S+.
Okay. So for me, Brave Edelgard, like, oh my god, I did not think they were going to go this far with her refine. Like, they didn't give her exactly what I think she needed, but they gave her a lot of other stuff. Like, they gave her, like, what? Yeah. Like, 21 defense, attack, and resistance in her weapon? Like, that's stupid. Right.
Yeah, so I think everyone was expecting her to get damage reduction on the first hit. Or, like, give her a surveillance shield.
Right, exactly.
And let's be real. If they had given her either of those things, it would have just been way too good. Because we went into these refines with this unit already being, like, one of the top units in the game. She needed zero help. She didn't need anything. And here we are. They gave her, like, what, 100 stats or whatever it is? They gave her that, and then they gave her the healing as well, plus 7 HP on every landed hit. That's so nasty.
Super good.
When they give these tanks, like, cheeky little sustain effects like that, it raises their overall bulk by so much.
Massively.
It's nasty. Yeah, and they gave her guard as well.
Exactly.
Guard really, really damn good on her. So, like, she can actually beat Duo Chrom if he doesn't have Deadeye Precharge.
Right.
So, like, if he's getting it on the second hit, or, first of all, she can just guard him out of having it if he doesn't, like, initiate with it.
My problem with her, like, the reason why I have her in S and not S+, is because I feel like her weakness is far-saving, right? Like, I feel like she is good at it, but she's not, like, top-tier far-saver, right? Like, she's not Mufasa or Brave Hector or, like, Ascended of Thune, because she has the armor weakness, and because what makes her really unique is not only her weapon, but Black Eagle Rule, right? And if you take that out for Hardy Fighter, it feels kind of like you're gutting her a bit. So I don't really like that either. So, like, her not having a flexible B slot was kind of, like, one of the reasons. But as a near saver, I think that's where she, like, really shines. I think she's probably the best near save in the game now. Like, she is just completely bonkers. Likely. Yeah, like, I've been just doing that. And I think that the fact that they gave her guard in her weapon is, like, massive, because it opened up her A slot to, like, all kinds of different options instead of just having to run, like, a stance.
The biggest thing about her biggest strength to me is still the same thing as it was before the refines, which was her ability to move without being an armor unit. So, like, she has the +1 movement, she has the guidance jump effect on herself, so, like, just having an armored unit on wheels like that is just so good, because this is my main issue with a lot of the other armored units. They really struggle in terms of mobility.
Yes.
If you're running them in summoner duels, it's kind of annoying to have to constantly ferry them around the map and get them where they need to be. That's not an issue with Edelgard. She can just go wherever she wants, and it's not a problem.
So yeah, she's phenomenal. Definitely got great treatment. She did not get the Lin treatment, even in the slightest.
Yeah.
Okay, so our final unit is going to be the male winner of CYO4, Brave Dimitri. And I have him in S+. What about you?
I also have him in S+.
This unit is just insanely powerful. Like, he didn't get everything he perfectly needed, but he got really close. Like, the fact that he got true damage reduction based off his defense, and also just true damage based off his defense, just makes him so difficult to kill. Like, if you've played with Astra at all, Astra's annoying, but Dimitri takes it to a whole new level. Like, he's really, really powerful as a combat unit. He was so powerful, like, during my showcase, I was intentionally trying to get him killed, and he would not die.
I mean, he's literally like Brave Ike on release, where how do you kill this guy? You don't. That's the answer.
The problem with original-based Dimitri was that, like, he only had the damage reduction based off defense in his B slot, right? And so it was kind of, like, bad because he'd get doubled and just die to, like, stuff. But now that you get so much value off of defense, when you stack defense, like, you're getting true damage, you're getting true defense and damage reduction. And the way it works is, right, is like the normal damage reduction goes first, then the true defense. So, like, he just takes nothing. Like, it's just, I've seen, like, hits that were, like, supposed to be, like, 74 go down to, like, 3. And I'm like, how is this possible?
Yeah. What is it, like the status check in combat is so wonky when you're using this guy. The enemies are doing like what 70 plus damage, and then they hit you and it's just tink 0 damage. It's like, okay, sure.
I mean, I threw him at a catcher ball with Brave Male Byleth with Sublime Heaven, and he just tanked the hits. Like, it was like he just took them. Like, it was like, okay, I'm just gonna live. Like, it's really, really strong. And the cool thing about that is that he can fit into some frontline roles, which are becoming more and more prominent, especially in something like Summoner Duels. Because, like we said earlier, Brave Seliph is everywhere. He's literally everywhere. And this is the one unit I can see that consistently lives him, which is it's a big deal.
The fact that he's blue and Asker is colorless, in this one particular case, I think Dimitri does have a little edge there because he has color advantage against Seliph.
Exactly. And that's the big deal.
Yeah, there's not really anything other than him right now that's going to safely tank Seliph.
Right. The other thing is I did not expect them to give him low attack defense, which just adds so much more too, right? Because you can't even get those visible buffs against them. Yeah,
so he just takes away your ability to do harm. Basically, he's like, you can't touch me.
Right. So yeah, he's definitely, for me, he's definitely the number one refine out of his batch. But like, no one did bad, which is no one in the CYLs did bad.
I mean, R.I.P. Sothis.
Oh my gosh, they did her so dirty. Okay, any final thoughts on the tier list? Any last comments you want to put in there?
The only thing is, like, the only real discrepancy is our Lucina placements. But other than that, I think everything else looks relatively the same.
Yeah, I agree. I think like we're overall pretty much in agreement on most things, other than Lucina, obviously. We're like, it's like a tier maybe at the most, which is not really that big of a difference. Okay, that's going to be our tier list. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions down in the comment section below. Which units do you think deserve to be where they're at? Which units would you move up or down a spot? And also, which CYL units do you think are the best? Make sure to drop a comment down below letting me know. Thank you so much once again for coming on, Tacho. This was a ton of fun. I can't wait to do another one in the future.
Oh, anytime, man. Anytime you need me, just give me a shout. I'm always down.
Sounds like a plan. Okay, if you enjoyed the video, please drop a like and subscribe, not only to my channel, but Tacho's as well. If you have not checked out his content somehow, his content is amazing. He's always the first one out with all the new updates, and that's always where I go to get my info. So make sure to check out his channel.
Yeah, but make sure you check out Oblivion first, because low-key, he's up and coming. I always try to give shout-outs to the homies that are up and coming, right? So you, Phaeology, and etc. Like, the dudes that are on the rise, that's who I always point the fingers at.
Thank you, man. Thanks. Like, honestly, it's so much fun to just to talk to you about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this is something we probably have been doing regardless. If we weren't recording a video, we'd just been talking about this.
Okay, I'll catch everyone later with more Fire Emblems. This has been Oblivion.
All right, guys. Peace out.